watching this. Welcome to my vlog. I'm going to be going over and recapping, reflecting, and recording my take on a couple of YA novels that I will be reading over the course of the next few months. I'm Hannah Murky. I'm a teacher in Durham County. You know, I consider Harry Potter a YA novel, and that's my first love of literature. So because of that, I've always been drawn to the genre. It's nice to kind of go back and rely on something that you're so comfortable with. So as I'm going through, these different books, I'm going to really try and talk about interpretations of a few pieces of that puzzle as well. My first focus, a mini-series, I guess, is on the 21st century Judy Blume. And I picked that because I think Judy Blume is the original. She's the OG of YA. I think in the 70s she was doing things that nobody else even thought to write about, and if they did, they didn't do it well, and they didn't do it memorably. One of the most memorable books that I can remember is in the 5th grade seeing this book on display in the library. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I think one of the big differences between this version and the one that I originally read is the cover. Trying to make, Judy Blume relevant as texting, probably not a great idea. It's actually terrifying. I think if God replied to me through text message, I would be super concerned and I would not want to see what the response is. This is why it falls into the problem category for me. Problem to the character, they're experiencing problems, they're living through problems, they're having to deal and cope with those things. Also problem as in problematic, it's just outdated. So why is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret so problematic? She's moving from New York to New Jersey. She's also dealing with boys judging the girls, a neighbor that becomes her friend but is a horrible bully. Nancy Wheeler is a terrible bully, and I'm not talking about the older sister from Stranger Things. She's just not a great girl, and I think for this book to be something that so many girls looked up to, it's a little problematic that written in these lines was a relationship Margaret was living through that wasn't great, and she doesn't really realize it until the end either. She deals with the bullying, and I think that says a lot about what so many middle and high schoolers go through, is that they just deal with it. She never asks for help about that. Problems that we also see is just that family drama. Margaret's dealing with religion at a time period where usually you just do what your family wants. We're seeing her try to identify with religion. I think that's her big identity crisis that she is seeing through this book, having to live up to expectations of her friends who are becoming women and getting their periods and kissing boys and playing spin the bottle. She deals with it gracefully and with some humor as well. She has a great inner monologue through this story. Some things that I find problematic just as an educator is the 1970s education system. I'm so glad that things have changed in education. The way that lessons are taught, the idea that a teacher would just say to his class, you're going to do a year-long study with me, your teacher, and we're going to talk about it together, just the two of us. So what do you want to learn, children? It seems so unstructured. As a 5th grader, I would not have thought was funny. I would have just thought it was like, oh, the teacher's just being a teacher. And here I am judging every single thing he decides to do. He asks his students, what do you think of a male teacher? I think that would be a horribly unnecessary question to ask my students now. I think just some things are a little outdated. I think that makes it a little problematic. Trying to relate this book to my students would be, I think, difficult. This book is a great starting point. Margaret doesn't realize all of the family drama. She sees her grandmother as a loving grandmother. She doesn't see any issues with her family, and if she does, she still plays the child innocence card. She hasn't quite grown up. She hasn't quite realized all of the other subtext. Reading this now as an adult, I see. And I think my students might start to catch on to it, but I think it's one of those books that you have to revisit, even if it is outdated, even if it is problematic, because her problems that Judy Blume writes about are things that we see throughout so many other YA novels. And so that is why I am starting with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I thoroughly enjoyed rereading it. I hadn't read it probably in 20 years. Just the idea that it's still available and on the shelves and that it's referenced so often, it matters. I think it's one of the most important genres that there is. I look forward to continuing this mini-series of 21st century Judy Blume, and thanks for watching.